Welcome back to AGRC 223. Moving again through another lecture here, and this one will cover Unit 7, which will focus on alfalfa diseases that you may encounter out there in your alfalfa field. So let's get to our content here. A rather short section. I believe it's only 10 slides and just a few diseases to hit on here, but hopefully this lecture will help illustrate and demonstrate some points that are critical for you. The first one that we'll discuss is bacterial wilt. Again, all of these, you'll kind of see that first point there that says occurs when conditions are right for rapid and vigorous growth. And the first three words of that are really crucial for all of the diseases that we're going to talk about with alfalfa here. When the conditions are right, whether that's too wet or too dry, soil nutrition, whatever it might be. But this one happens to set in whenever you have really great growing conditions, and all of a sudden then we have something set in that is unsavory. So symptoms of this is we start to get some stand death, reduced stand, infected plants are dwarfed and don't grow correctly, bunched growth instead of that nice wide stemmy growth that you typically see with alfalfa. And then as you get leaf development, they're small, they're off color or yellow with curled leaves, and again, this really hits them during hot weather times of the year here. It's spread. This is a disease that's spread by your mower. Whenever you go out to mow hay, you can spread it from field to field. It's sometimes spread by drainage or irrigation water. So those of you who maybe have the opportunity to irrigate out on your hay fields, be aware of this one as potentially causing a problem, because of course if you have the opportunity to supplement in the summertime during a dry spell, supplement water to it, you're going to create some ideal growing conditions that maybe otherwise wouldn't be there, and so you have to be ready for this particular problem. Diseased plants then susceptible to all kinds of different things, but especially injury, and infection enters through those plant wounds. So by a year or two, if you've got a new stand, infected plants are going to die off in year two. And I would venture a guess that maybe this is a little more common than we're aware of out there in your fields today. As you see reduced stand from year one to year two, do you go out and find out potentially what the problem or cause of that might have been? So this may be more prevalent than you really have a handle on. Preventative nature here, obviously the best approach, plant resistant varieties, and most all of your varieties, if you're shopping in the catalog for some new alfalfa seed, have some resistance to bacterial wilt. But again, study that one carefully, because this one obviously can come along. And alfalfa is an expensive crop to get going. It's an expensive crop to plant and develop, but a crop that has a lot of value to it. So want to protect it well so that we can produce a lot of feed per acre. Next disease that we'll cover is anthracnose. This one is signified by diamond-shaped lesions on the stem, and the center that is kind of straw or yellow colored in the center of that diamond. And so you'll find the death of this plant starts at the top, and the plant kind of just tips its head over and has what we call a shepherd's crook. And it's a fairly easy one to scout for if you happen to find it out there, because that is not a common response by the alfalfa plant. So this one will tell you right away that it does have a problem. So this is a fungal borne disease, and overwinters on the plant debris, and so we get new inoculum for early spring growth, and especially when we have a warm, wet weather, that's really ideal. You think about some of the past years that we had, you can kind of picture conditions that may have been ideal for anthracnose problems out there. Again, spread by spores, as with most fungal diseases are out there. It's spread by spores, whether it's rain or wind or even machinery going from field to field with your mower, rake, or your baler. Be careful, be aware of that. And again, resistant varieties is probably your best method of control here. Verticillium wilt is some V-shaped lesions, yellowing on the tips of the leaves, and maybe some rolling on the leaf margins. So you see all three of these diseases so far that we've talked about, the very unique, different symptoms. And so you should be able to accurately diagnose if you get out and scout in your wheat fields. I've hammered away and talked about scouting your fields pretty regularly throughout the course and throughout these online lectures so far. And don't forget about scouting alfalfa if you've got it out there. Um, the leaves of affected verticillium will eventually probably roll and die, and that stem remains green. So obviously we've affected hay quality pretty severely that way. Again, spores carried by all the same tools that we talked about or methods as the prior two diseases, and it's more common in older alfalfa stands. So again, one that you may not have spent time out there to figure out that that's a problematic disease causer, and an older stand just dies out and you don't really know why. Again, effective scouting will help cut into this one. Next is fusarium wilt, and again, another unique one because we have reddish brown discoloration, but this time we're talking about the root. So in order to catch this one, you'd have to go out and identify those stunted plants and dig them up and figure out why that plant is stunted. Why is it not growing at the same rate of plants neighboring it? So obviously this one becomes a little bit more prevalent in older stands, causes destruction of the stand, and can cause more destruction in conjunction with other diseases. Obviously, as you have that stressor below the soil line, it's going to have stressors above the soil line as well. So be aware of this one. You have to, again, get out, get you a shovel, and go to digging and see what you can find. If you have a mature alfalfa stand that you'd like to maintain for a year or two longer, but is beginning to die out, find out why that might be. Next one is Phytophthora root rot. Again, interior of the roots. Again, stunting or dead plants. So you would have to, again, get out, scout, and then dig and find out which one of these that you have, whether it's verticillium or fusarium or Phytophthora root rot. So, again, common in areas of the field that are somewhat wet, but again, it spreads nicely. Crown and root rot, again, rot similar to Phytophthora. Root rot, I've got a picture here that shows, here is on the left side of the screen, move my mouse over here and show you, here's a normal, healthy alfalfa root. Notice that long, classic, long tap root, very healthy looking, good color in this particular one. And then here you see affected plants, and I've tried to drop arrows in at the spots of infection. Here's one here. This alfalfa plant, obviously, as you notice at the top here, starting to get some blackening and discoloration of the stem above the ground. Here we've got several spots in the root system and kind of a deformed root already, and poor stem development above that. And then over here you got a really severe problem that certainly is going to probably result in plant death in that situation. And finally, some leaf diseases, and the primary two are leaf spot and leaf blotch. Again, very common, prevalent in wet, humid regions, prime time here for southern Illinois alfalfa fields, and circular brown spots on the leaves and causes early leaf drop. So in either case, if you've got leaf disease, oftentimes the best way is to get out and mow alfalfa as soon as you start to see this develop and kind of break that life cycle before you get to have a serious problem. One of the things that I would caution you against with regard to the alfalfa diseases out there, pursuant to chemical application, is anytime that you are considering going out with chemical application alfalfa fields, and we'll cover this as well when we talk about alfalfa insects, is chemical application, if you're going to mow hay, has a withdrawal time. You don't want to have that chemical toxicity then passed on to, or having risk of passing that on to any livestock that may consume that feed after you've harvested it. So be aware anytime that you're considering any chemical application with regard to alfalfa, timing to your next cutting. You kind of have that withdrawal time out there that you have to think about. So that wraps up Unit 7, the alfalfa diseases lecture. Hopefully this helps you